I need everyone's attention, please. It's 7 o'clock, and it's time for us to get going with 7 members present. This evening, I'm excited and also a little trepidatious in that we have got a tremendously long meeting. So we will try to keep things moving right along and on a pretty tight agenda. To that end, I would entertain a motion from anyone to approve the agenda.
So moved.
And
Second.
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 7-0. Consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. On to section 4.01. Comments from the public. It's important to note that we will limit time to 5 minutes. I better take my watch off so I can watch this. Not to exceed 5 minutes, and we will take comments under advisement and refer those usually to administration. First up, Mr. Woogie.
You might remind people that do not to use personal names of
Oh, yeah,
identifiable individuals.
that's the other thing. And Mr. Woogie, also, when you speak, if you're going to speak about certain individuals, then that needs to be done in executive session.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't attack anybody,
All right, thank you.
just a group.
Okay.
I talked to a person today, board meeting, and, or at a, just visited with her and told her that I was coming to the board meeting, and she's upset that Wednesday afternoons are off from the schools. The schools are kind of used as a babysitting for the parents, and when they're dumped out early, the kids don't have that. They really need to be kept in school 5 days, a week for the short 6 hours anyway. But anyway, I told her that I'd mention that. She was upset, and she said she'd talk to, and so maybe might think about having the Wednesdays full days. The curriculum, going to have a curriculum director, I guess, and that astounds me that you guys got 2 months off of it, or 3 months off at the end of the year, and it seems like the administration had plenty of time to figure out the curriculum, because it's actually, you've had one a year before anyway. The Eisenhower closing, in that questionnaire, it said that considering moving back into this building, moved here to save money. That's what was written, and I'm in favor of the board office staying here. There was a tremendous amount of money spent to get it up in this shape, and we probably shouldn't lose that. Need to kind of move on. I was tremendously opposed to closing this school for various reasons, and the board chose not to be represented by the public on that. But anyway, and I'd like to see Goppert Center, if a community could get together and make that a grade school, that'd be good, since partly our tax dollars are going into it anyway, but from the school board, I understand. Over the years, a lot of mistakes were made. I'll tell you, it's so much better than what it was years back. There were so many mistakes made. One of them was 40 years ago when the kids were going in. The word was out, and not in Kansas, but it was in Nebraska and around. Don't teach your kids anything. We want to teach them. We don't want you to confuse the kids. Well, there's a structure, a foundation that's built at home, and you build on that, and that's how we learn. But anyway, that proved out. Another thing was they allowed smoking a few years ago. Believe that or not. I talked to the principal about if they're going to smoke out there in front, they need to at least pick up their cigarette butts, because there was cigarette butts, and they said, well, they're going to smoke anyway in the restroom. But as we look back at that, they say, isn't that something that was allowed? But anyway, we've moved forward, and there's a lot of positive things. I looked at the kids that were graduating, a lot of them going to college, and things are improving. But we have a lot of things. And at one time, spanking was done in the schools not that many years ago. There were rules that had to be met for spanking, and I suppose the administration vented their frustrations out on the kid. You know, what do you do sometimes? But personally, I talk to my kids, and they beg to be spanked. But so I've covered the curriculum. Let's see. I think that's it. Thank you for your tolerance.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Woogie. I took notes there. All right. Ms. Callan, Lori? And again, the 5 minutes, and then we usually refer everything to administration, and if you name anybody, then we are in executive session. We'll have to go in executive session.
Okay. You should have all received a thank you. I brought that tonight from our nurse, Mrs. Mangel. She just wanted to thank all of you for the defibrillators, for your contribution with that. And she's also sent a copy to the Olathe Medical Center, so you all see that. And then some of our after-school kids did a thank you for all of you for the playground. So I just wanted to bring that to you tonight and tell you that they're very excited. We appreciate the fact that you're allowing us to get the new playground. So I'll leave this with Mrs. Powers for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was a great card, by the way.
Yes, it
Susan
was. It's
Elaine's here.
awesome.
She's on the Olathe Hospital Board, so she could take that back personally.
There you go. She could. Did you hear that, Lori? Elaine is on the Olathe Hospital Board, and so she could take it back personally. Thank you very much. And third, Miss Ott, Linda Ott. Where'd she go? There she is. Again, to reiterate, a limit to 5 minutes, and if there's going to be individuals discussed, we have to do that in executive session.
Well, I know there's been a lot of misinformation about what Chartwell's offered employees and what OPA offered employees. So I'm here to kind of clear that up, maybe. Compass Foods, which is the corporate name for Chartwell's, has 3 plans of choice for major medical, and OPA offers 1, and it is limited. Chartwell's offers 1 to 5 days paid bereavement per death, depending on the relationship. OPA offers 2 bereavement per year. Chartwell's has 5 paid sick days. OPA, no paid sick days. Chartwell's offers $8,000 worth of life insurance. There is no life insurance offered by OPA. Chartwell's offers 6 paid holidays. OPA offers 3. They said, it was published in the Ottawa Herald, that the new provider says it will match employee benefits. I'll leave it up to you to see if you feel that matches what Chartwell's has offered.
Okay. Okay, made notes for you. All right, we'll refer that to them. Now, we're moving on to section 5, and this is the part that's going to be way cool. Dr. Kraus.
Yes, I had invited a number of student groups to come, and I'd like to make this an every meeting occurrence if we can. I know as board members all too often, I doubt there's very often when anybody calls you up just to tell you what a great day they're having. I think it's you're hearing some sort of complaint. We have a lot of students in our district that are doing a lot of great things, and I just wanted to invite some of them here for you to acknowledge and just to see some of the positive things that are going on.
Okay. All right. Ms. Neller, Linda Neller. Stand up, guys.
Okay, we won a national math competition, and I have a couple students who are going to tell you about the competition and what we did.
Okay. And so everyone knows, what school are you from?
Garfield Elementary,
And what
third grade.
Third grade. Awesome.
We played math games against other students all over the world. We also played others in our class. Some of the games were Chef, Animals, Holy, and Snowball.
Most games are free to play all the time.
The math questions are grades 1st through 8th, so everyone has a good chance of winning.
To make contests fair for students with limited access to computers, every student is limited to 1,000 questions. Even if you only answer a few questions, you can still participate. To qualify for prizes, 15 students have to participate. And Sumdog can be played at any time on any computer with internet access.
Our class won first place on 2 different days during the week of the contest and then won the national contest. We each received a 1-year subscription to Sumdog. He won second and I won 5th place in our class.
Sumdog has English practice through games. We received 1 week free. Some people tried it out, some didn't.
We are in another contest and are trying to win a site license for either Web 2.0, Comic Life 2, Newsmaker, or Muyo. These are programs for science, language, and math.
Today we're in 30th place out of 2,017 schools.
That's awesome. Linda, can you tell everybody their
Linda?
names? Can you tell
Would
them
you
their names?
introduce the kids that are here?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
This is Kale Watts, Noah McGinnis, Reese Fogel, Zach Smith, Aubrey Carter, Sydney Jones, Paige Ledoux, Cross Hornbuckle, and Lenora Kent.
Good job.
Congratulations.
We want to tell you that just even for doing your best and for competing like you are all winners. And we're very proud of you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
All right. OHS Art Awards.
Hi, Monica Jameson won this award for her scratchboard drawing, which is, she did first semester in drawing class that I taught her. And basically a scratchboard is cardboard, and then it's a layer of clay and then ink, and you have to scratch it away. You have to be very careful because if you scratch too much, it gets fuzzy. And then I had the students paint ink on to enhance it with a color. And so she got this award at the League Art Competition.
Well done. Well done.
That was Melissa Mitchell, one of the art teachers at high school. I'm the other art teacher, Jolene Thompson. And I'm here representing Jillian Prather, who is playing soccer right now for regionals, so she's miles away. We had also competed at Highland Community College's art competition. And if you can imagine, 35 schools, each school bringing at least 30 pieces, or no more than 30 pieces of student artwork. To come back with a recognition is really quite a feat. And we'd like to come back with 5 or 6 of them, but we only came back with 1. And Jillian has been throwing pots for 2 years on the potter's wheel. And this is her piece. She did well. We were really proud of her.
That's awesome.
So if you see her, tell her so.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Susan, I might like to point out too that they won their soccer game 1-0. They went all the way out to Hayes, Kansas, and won 1-0. So that's pretty impressive.
That's very impressive. All right. Miss Underwood and Miss Williams. Are you here? Where are you? There you are.
Hi, I'm Courtney Williams, April 27th, we took a whole busload of music students to Andover, Kansas for 4A State Solo and Ensemble, and we have a handful here. They qualified for state by earning a 1 rating at regionals, which a 1 rating is superior. We had 7 solos qualify for state, and then I don't even know how many vocally. It was a lot. Yeah. She can tell you all about that. The instrumentalists I have here today are Clint Lyman, Lance Benning, Hannah Heatherman, and Courtney Houston. And Courtney and Hannah and Clint all received 1 ratings at state, and Lance received a 2 rating on his solo, which is also excellent. So they did a really, really nice job.
Good job.
I'm Lori Underwood, the vocal music director at the high school. At our regional, we took 12 solos and 4 ensembles. All 4 ensembles advanced to state, receiving a 1 at regionals, and 5 of our soloists received 1s or superior ratings out of the 12. So in the mix then, in the end, Courtney received a 1 on her vocal solo. Bryce received a 1 on his vocal solo. Lance received a 2 on his vocal solo. Ryan Tipton and Katie Weber, Ryan received a 1 and Katie received a 2. The Cytone women sang beautifully and received a superior rating, and each of the other 3, the Cytones, the chamber women, and the men's ensemble, which was kind of a combination of the men from the 2 groups, received 2 or excellent ratings. So we were extremely proud of all of these.
That's awesome. Well done, guys. Keep up the good work.
Well, before you go, I know that the band got 1s at state for large group. How did you check? Did you check chamber?
Chamber choir received a 1 at large groups, and the women's choir received a 2 rating.
So well done all the way around.
Yep, good job, guys. We're expecting great things next year. All right, Miss Flax. There she is.
He's dressed for it.
I was going to ask them if they wanted to do a number tonight,
Bill, I thought you were gonna ask him to sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
but that would have been good too.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Angie Flax. I'm coach forensics at the high school. We just recently competed at state at Washburn Rural on May 4th, and we took almost a full squad. A full squad is 16. We took 13 this year. We have a young squad, but we did come out finishing 4th place in IDA. Nancy Kosmarski, you can imagine her standing here, and Laura Sims were the ones that took that 4th place medal. We did have a couple others get into semifinals, and overall, not even having a full squad, we still placed 14th out of 49 schools. So we were pretty okay with that. My youngsters, I think, are gonna take us far next year.
That's cool. Thank you very much. Good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've got them doing well in all realms, don't we? That's so cool. All right, on to section 6. Ms. Myers, we're going to talk about Geek Dojos.
So my name is Cassie Myers, and I am the Communities and Schools Site Coordinator at Ottawa High School. So today, Dr. Cobbs had asked me to come and talk a little bit about a club that we are trying to get started at the high school. It is called Geek Dojo. So most of us have heard about how America needs better skills in science, technology, and engineering and math. The Department of Defense has even set up several contests geared at attracting and educating young people about those fields. We wanted to do something right here in Ottawa about that too. So Communities and Schools is partnering with the folks over at Reflective Group in Baldwin, Mike Bosch and Sandy Barnes, who have expertise in technology and engineering. They're founding a nonprofit organization called the Geek Dojo. And also it would be an after-school program for the high schoolers. So Geek Dojo will be a place where kids can come for technology and engineering knowledge. All the learning at Geek Dojo will be hands-on. For instance, kids already know how to use apps, but at Geek Dojo they can learn how to build apps. The students will go on field trips to different engineering industry sites where they will complete hands-on projects as a part of their tours. The curriculum, and they will build a curriculum, will touch many different disciplines: software and hardware, engineering, rocketry, robotics, network administration, cybersecurity, user experience design, and more. Students will also learn how to be responsible and accountable within each discipline, so they can truly be proud of what they have created. Just like at Martial Arts Dojo, the students can earn different colored belts as they progress through their chosen disciplines. All of the hopes hang on getting funding and sponsorships. We are applying for some government grants and also looking for private donations. Our plan is for Geek Dojo to start small. We hope to start with at least 10 students, and our hopes is that they're freshmen and sophomore and that they can kind of go through their high school years with this program. And they will start out on the same after-school introductory class for the first semester. And our friends over at Reflective Group have set up a web page where you can sign up to learn more information about Geek Dojo and where people can donate funds and make Geek Dojo come to life in Ottawa. And Ottawa will be their test place that it will start. And their hope is to kind of bring it to other communities. So.
Could you maybe send, yeah, and I was going to say, send that.
The website is www.geekdojo.org. So.
What's the name of the group in Baldwin? Reflective what?
Reflective Group.
Reflective Group.
Real original group.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. What's the name of the group?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
That's good.
It's like saying, what's the name of your
So we have homework to see about the Greek dojo
Not
before
Greek,
next time.
Geek.
Dojo.
not Greek.
Yeah, well, that's-
Although you might have an added benefit if you'd let them wear togas or something.
That is it. Might be a good recruitment tool.
Every Friday they do like a theme.
They do get to wear togas.
There you go.
Office, so we'll go Greek one day.
That's it, exactly. All right. Elaine, welcome. We're glad you're here. Okay.
Let's get take-outers.
We have an exceptional technology person who can keep up with you.
Okay.
So you just tell him where to go or what
Yeah,
to
he
do.
can probably just flip along as his. I can't resist commenting on the math award because math is my favorite subject. In fact, really, actually, all your survey results depend on mathematics. So I'm glad to see that Ottawa is producing some outstanding mathematicians. So I think that's really good. And I'll remember the message for the Olathe Medical Center also. So it's been an enjoyable evening. Well, this is the third year we've done one of these surveys, and I don't want to talk too long because I guess you sound like you have a real heavy agenda ahead of you. And if we don't answer all the questions tonight, you can just pass your questions on to Dr. Kraus, and I'll be glad to answer them. And in fact, when we get all done, if you would like to see any additional analyses, we can go ahead and do those also. So I went through and did what I thought would be of primary interest, but sometimes you begin to think about other things. And one of the things that I really kind of noticed is there's some questions which have kind of carried through almost for 3 times. And when we come to some of those, I'll comment on them because some of them are very similar, which shows some consistency in what the residents of Ottawa think about the Ottawa school system. First of all, we heard from 647 households, and 1,636 persons live in those households, and 28% had at least one child in the Ottawa schools. And the distribution of how many years they've lived in the Ottawa area is rather diverse. If you notice, that for, 10 years or less, that's 19%, which does show that, there is some movement into the Ottawa community. On the other hand, you've got a third that have been here for at least 31 years. If you look at the next chart, that shows the 2007 and 2013, and you'll notice that they're actually quite similar, so that you have continued to have the inflow of people over time, and in fact, if you even go back to 2004, there's some evidence of that. How many people live in your household? If you look at 4 or more, you've got 26%, which is about 1 out of 4. And you can see that to some degree that matches with the percentage of households that have at least one child in the school system. And so if we compare that to 2007, you can see that there's a similarity in pattern. And of course, that means that there's going to be a continued demand for your outstanding educational services. How many children are currently enrolled in the system? I indicated initially it was 28%. And if you compare back to the previous study, it was a little higher on the previous survey, but that's not a big difference. And the similarity for the 1 and 2 and 3 person households, again, is similar. We had a slightly smaller percentage of 1 person households this year. These are a little harder to understand, but they probably impact how people answered some of the questions related to elementary schools and middle schools and high school. How many children are currently in the grades K through 5? And you can see that 16%, or about 1 out of 6, do have a child in K through 5. If you skip to grades 6 to 8, we've got 11%, or about 1 out of 9, have a child in those grades. If you skip to grades 9 through 12, you've got 13%. So again, we've got a good representation of people responding relative to having children in the system. Do you live in the city limits of Ottawa? We had 80% that said yes, and then we asked which elementary school do you live closest to. You'll see that Lincoln had a smaller percentage, but that's probably not surprising. Garfield and Eugene Field were fairly similar. When you compare the 2007 to the 2013 distributions, you'll see they're very similar, that in 2007 we had 81% said yes. This year it was 80%. How many persons live in your household of different ages? And you can see that that is really rather diverse. If you look at even under ages 15, and you look at those, you've got 22%, which is a fairly high number. And if you look at the next graph, we now have the distributions for 2007 and 2013, and you'll see again that the distributions are rather similar. We had slightly more females respond this year, with about 2/3 and 1/3 men. I think men tend to let their wives sometimes make give the opinions about schools, but we did hear from about 1/3.
As it should be.
Right. Now, does your home have internet access? I think one thing you have to really understand is I'm not always sure that people understand all the terminology, so you do have to look at that with some understanding that there may be some variance. We had 44% said yes via broadband and 37 yes via modem, and then we had 17% that said no. If yes, now these are only the people who said yes, they had internet access. We asked, do you have wireless capability? You can see a large majority do have this, with 86% saying yes, they did. Now I think this next question is one that's rather interesting, and it's been asked for all three surveys. How important is it to you for the Ottawa schools to continue replacing older facilities with newer facilities that are easier and less costly to maintain, plus provide students with access to today's technology and programs in a safe environment. And if you add up the 29% and the 35%, you end up having 65%. And if you divide that by the percentage that say not important, you can see that this is an important topic for the people of Ottawa with respect to the school system. If you look at the next slide, which shows it for 2007 and 2013, you will see this has been a continued pattern. And I went ahead and did not put it in the report, but I brought with me the results from 2004. And those results, again, have the same consistent pattern. So when you think about that 2004 to 2013, that gets such an importance rating from the residents of Ottawa, and it has been sustained now then for 9 years. And I think that's rather impressive. What is your opinion about the use of modular buildings for classroom use? This is a mixed opinion. You'll see that 43% think you should discontinue it, 20% think you should continue and do more of it, 22% think you should continue but don't add any more, and the rest don't know. And you'll see from some of the subsequent questions, this is not a clear-cut response, and that there is mixed opinions about the use of modular buildings. What is your level of support for building additional regular classrooms and using modular classrooms only for special use classes such as art, reading, or special title services? You can see that again is mixed. 35% think they should go. That's consistent with the last slide. But you can see that we have should continue is 18%, strongly support 13%, and 22% strongly support. So again, asking slightly different questions indicates this is a topic that has mixed opinions. How supportive would you be to convert all locks in all buildings to programmable locks with access controlled with a buzzer system? You can see there's a lot of support for that. Almost half said very supportive. If you add the somewhat supportive, you're up to 77%. And when you divide that by the not supportive 10%, that's a ratio of almost 8-to-1. So there's a lot of support for that. What would be your level of support for modified entrances? Again, strong support, 51% very supportive, 30% somewhat supportive, which is 81%. You divide by the not supportive 8%, you've got a ratio of roughly 1-to-10. Now you're going to get into some interesting decision making as I go through these results. You have a challenge probably ahead of you. What is your preference for meeting needs at Eugene Field? And you'll see that there is not necessarily a clear-cut answer here. Remodel the facility and add to Eugene Field, about a fourth. Another fourth think you should close it and build new facilities at another site. Another fourth think you should remodel it and add on to Garfield to get extra classrooms. And the other fourth aren't sure or think you should do nothing. So that's one of your little challenges. Which of the following options for new classroom space would you prefer? Addition at Garfield, about a quarter. Convert Eisenhower back, about 43%. Build a new school, 23%. And 17% just didn't give an answer. How supportive would you be for building a new elementary space at another location if the existing facility at Eugene Field were to be used for the central office facility? And you can see there's not much support for that. 48% are not supportive, while 15% are very supportive and 18% somewhat. And if you take the sum 18 plus 15, you get 33 divided by 48%. That's a ratio less than 1, which indicates there's not a lot of support. What is your level of support for Garfield becoming a 4-section school? 26% very supportive, 34% somewhat supportive, 21% not sure, and 19% not supportive. If you take the 26 plus the 34, you've got 60% divided by the not supportive, you've got a ratio of 3 to 1. And so you can indicate that there is some fairly strong support for that particular activity. How important is it for the district to be able to handle increases in enrollment and meet the demand for changing program needs at the high school? And you can see almost 6 out of 10 think this is very important. Another 24% think it's somewhat important. That's 84%. And relative to the 7% that don't think it's important, this gains a lot of support. And looking now at the comparison between 2007 and 2013, you can see that the importance has even increased, so that there's even stronger support than there was in 2007. What is your preference for meeting needs at the high school level? Remodel the facility and add an addition for updated programs, 6 out of 10. 14% build a new facility. 11% do nothing, and 14% are not sure. So you can see the remodeling and adding an addition gains the strongest support. And if you see the comparison between 2007 and 2013, you can see that this has gained in support. It went from 47% to 61%, but at the same time, building a new facility decreased from 23% to 14%. An alternative to meet elementary and high school needs would be to convert the middle school to an elementary school, move the middle school to the high school, and build a new high school. How supportive are you of this? Didn't get much support. 52% were not supportive. Adding the very supportive and somewhat, you've got 31%, which is less than half of the not supportive. So that, again, did not gain a lot of support. There are many options for the school district to handle the current lack of space and changing needs. How supportive would you be of the following options to address these issues? You can see that there's some mixed opinions here. The renovate and add on to the high school came in number 1 if you look at the sum of the very supportive and somewhat supportive. Number 2 was add on to Garfield to provide 4 classrooms. The third one was convert Eisenhower back to an elementary school. The fourth one was renovate and add to Eugene Field. The next one was renovate Eugene Field without an addition, and then they decrease in percentages as you end up with convert the middle school to an elementary school. Again, now looking at some of the questions that were asked both years, this one shows it renovate and add on to the high school between 2007 and 2013 remained almost constant. Renovate and add to Eugene Field remained similar. Build 1 new elementary school decreased somewhat, and build a new high school stayed the same, but the renovation still outweighed it 2 to 1, with the renovation getting 60% and the new high school getting 31%. Potential school district improvements that people thought were important. Renovate and add on to the high school was number 1. We asked the question, I'll tell you this, one of the things we did was we asked a lot of the questions in many ways with the idea that as they go through the survey, you help educate or get the person to think about the questions, with the idea that as you culminate near the end and ask some of the concluding questions, you maybe can find out what they have finally concluded, which might help you in your program to inform the public about what you plan. They do need to know what you're planning, and sometimes it takes a lot of effort, and you really have to go through it and explain it in detail. But I think that when you go through and see these questions, as some of the questions seem to change a little bit, remember these are in the order in which the person answered the question. So they might be changing their mind as they're going through the survey, which tells you information can have an impact and change people's opinion. Now the one thing you'll notice is renovate and add on the high school still comes in high. Number 2, add on to Garfield to provide 4 classrooms. Number 3 is convert Eisenhower back to an elementary school, build a new high school. And people were limited to picking 3 items here. They had to pick their first, their second, and their third, with the blue bar indicating their first choice, the yellow bar indicating their second choice, and the red bar indicating their third choice. So if you look, at the top ones, you can tell which ones had the highest support. Preferences for potential improvements to replace the classroom space at Eugene Field. One was convert Eisenhower back to an elementary school, add to Garfield at the elementary school there, build one big unit elementary school, and convert the middle school to an elementary school. So the top two were the Eisenhower and Garfield. Perceived importance of potential school additions. These are things that enhance the education, which I think in view of what tonight you heard about some of the great things going on at the schools, the forensics, the vocal, and all the art, I think it illustrates the importance of offering different options to students. For curriculum additions, gain the strongest support with almost 2/3 of the people picking that. More vocational classes, 54%. Technology support to use mobile devices, and you can see that after-school program fits in perfectly, probably even there to get some of your students to be even more able to help learn and maybe even teach other people. Online curriculum with iPads and tablets, replacing textbooks with online materials. You can see that one has less support. And you can see the top two are curriculum additions and more vocational classes. The red bar indicates they don't think it's important. So if you think it's important, then you have an educational outreach program to do to help your constituency understand that it is important. Now we asked people to pick the top three. Curriculum additions came in number one, with almost 80% picking it as one of their top three choices. More vocational classes came in second with 2/3, so those continue to be the two, particularly when you then even ask people, what would you select if you only have three choices, since you only have a limited amount of money to spend. Now, one of the biggies comes up is, how supportive would you be in a bond issue for new school construction? You can see this is definitely a mixed response. 43% are not supportive, but if you add up the very supportive and somewhat, you have 55%, which is just a little bit over a ratio of 1. Not much, but it shows that, there is a possibility here, especially if you help people understand the advantages of having a new bond issue. Now, being a little more specific, what would be your level of support for a small bond issue up to $5 million that would focus on, one, improving security at all schools and building additional classrooms at Garfield? This one you can see has more support. 29% was not supportive, which dropped quite a bit. And if you take the very supportive and the somewhat supportive, you're now up to 68%, which is about 2 to 1. But the problem is, for the strongly support, you've got to be able to get them to shift from strongly support to very supportive. And if you could get half of those, you're up to about 49%, which isn't quite 50. But it would indicate that there is support if people maybe understand what it is you want to do and why it is so very important for the youth of Ottawa. Next one, how much now would you willing to pay to provide students with an education in an uncrowded environment that is safer, provides more programs, and provides equitable education at all elementary schools? Now, one way to look at this is how to add these up so you can get at least 50%. And if you start adding up by taking the 12% for the $15 a month and adding the 8% for the 12 and the 18% for the 9 and the 14% for the 6, you can now pass 52%. So $6 a month will gain the support of 52%. And what's really interesting, I looked that up for the last 2 years, both in 2004 and in 2007, $6 a month was the level at which you could get at least 50%. And it's interesting that over a 9-year period that has remained constant, even though $6 clearly buys less today than it did 9 years ago. But it shows, again, if you are wanting more, you're going to have to explain to people why it is that you do need more. Next one, which one of the following best describes the school district's communications with the community? And you can see this is a difficult thing for the district. It's roughly a third for everything. And in fact, if you look on the next slide, which shows 2007 to 2013, pretty much the same. So that is very difficult to help enhance your communication because I think things change so fast. The one good thing is that you've got at least a third that think you try to get input, and if they answered the survey, you know, they were given a chance to supply some input. But sometimes people don't realize that a survey is a great way to pass on input to the school board. How useful would the following communication methods be for you to learn about the Ottawa schools? Newspapers mailed to you, newsletter mailed to you, newsletter online, specific site, Facebook. I think to some degree that the mixture of ages in the survey indicates why maybe some of the latter three, Facebook, Twitter, and something like Friend of the School, gain less support because I think households that have younger children or have children in the school system are more apt to be using those particular options. Which one of the following best describes your trust in the school board? And again, that's a tough one. And in fact, to show you how tough it is, if you look at the next slide, over 6 years, it's pretty much unchanged. So that's a tough one just to do and a challenge because I think information changes so fast and it's hard to convey what you're doing to the public. The next one, which one of the following best describes your confidence in the school board? And probably the next slide that shows the comparison again, shows again how difficult this is because in 6 years it's remained fairly stable. And again, the good news, if you add those, the high level and moderate, you know, that's right at almost 50%. And that's probably pretty good, 1 out of 2. And so sometimes you have to look at these things positively and say, well, if we can got 1 out of 2 that think they have confidence in us, maybe we're not doing such a bad job. How would you rate the Ottawa School Superintendent? Probably a little unfair for the current superintendent, but then maybe you can use this as a baseline for the next survey. Doing an okay job, doing a good job. Again, though, if you look, I guess I didn't put one of those in, but again, that's pretty much stable. It's hard to change. And again, if you say doing a good job and doing an okay job, that's 44%. That's almost half. That's really probably hard to do. And then 30%, so you don't even know. And so if you've got 30% that don't know, they at least admit they're not willing to provide a rating because they don't have enough information. How would you rate the educational climate at the Ottawa schools? If you say doing a good job and doing an okay job, that's almost 60%, 6 out of 10. That's really pretty good. You divide by needs improvement, that's really a pretty good ratio. So the educational climate of the Ottawa schools is fairly good. Now, the next slide, this was the very last question. Now, in fact, when you think about this, you have to think, what was it that made people change their mind? Number one, though, improve school safety. That's the number one thing. They were asked to pick 3 choices. The second one was convert Eisenhower back to an elementary school. The third one was renovate and add on to the high school. The fourth one was add to Garfield to provide classrooms for each age. So those were the top 4, and the thing is that the impact of the different types of households, whether they had a child attending the Ottawa schools or not, whether they had a child under age 18 or not, and which school they lived closest to, if they lived inside the city limits, impacted this. And I wrote a short summary that's in the executive summary, in general, people who had a child attending the Ottawa schools or had a child under age 18 were more supportive of some of the things that would probably require spending money. But in fact, when you look at some of them, when you think about people who have a child who are probably now in elementary school, they're thinking of their child moving up to high school, and they really want to have a lot of things available for them at the high school level. And so if you look at the section in the report that shows you the breakout for each question by those 3 categories, you can zero in on some of the differences. And I went through and wrote a quick summary, sort of pointing out the ones that I thought were worth noticing. And I think that might help you, because I think you certainly have a challenge deciding how to spend your money and do it in a way that responds to what people told you on the survey. And I could talk a lot longer, but I think you have a lot of time. And so I was going to say, if you had any questions now, but then if you could send any questions, or if you say, I wish you'd had done a banner or a crosstab with this, I'll be glad to run it for you.
On the 3 major groups, did that stay the same for the last 2 surveys that started?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, the last one was the same group, because I wanted to be able to have data. And in fact, since we have all the data, if you didn't have those tabular crosstabs, I can even supply those. I'm one of these people that just doesn't throw stuff away. In fact, the joke in our office is, if Elaine has it, she probably can find it for 1990. So, so I've got all 3 of your surveys.
Yes.
So I don't know if you have anything you want to ask, because I know you have a long agenda on tonight.
Was there a way to tell, Elaine, if the respondents to your survey were demographically similar to the typical voter in Ottawa? Did you?
It's probably similar. It's probably difficult. We were looking a little bit more at, were they similar among the surveys from time to time, so that you could see what shifts were. I think that since Ottawa probably tends to have a higher percentage of older people, and that's one of the things I can check out. Checking out voters is difficult. Checking out the population, I can do that. But what happens is it's very difficult to know exactly who votes, because to get their ages. Now, if we take their ages, I guess, from the election office and check to see how often they vote, we might be able to do that. So I might think about that a bit, but I could probably do the basic demographics. It won't be perfect because the school district doesn't coincide exactly with the city of Ottawa, and I don't think they publish the data specifically for the school district, but we could look at just even the city of Ottawa.
That'd be good.
Other questions for Elaine? Thank you so much.
That was a great job. Thank you.
I get so excited about this, that's why I could talk all night, so I know I have to quit, because otherwise your chair will say, Elaine, I think it's time for you to quit.
Well, and we're glad that it's kind of cool to see that you've seen the other 2 surveys too.
Yeah, and that's what's really interesting. It shows that if you do things over time, it really does get interesting. So if you even think, in another 5-6 years, do it again, and now you're going to have this baseline data, and I hope that I'm still alive and kicking and can come back down.
Yes. Well, we're counting on that for sure. Thank you, Elaine. And then for the rest of the board, as you read, digest, and think through this material, if you could get questions to Brian Kraus, and he can relay
I'll
them
forward
on
them on then.
to Elaine and things.
Yep.
All right?
Yep.
Thank you very much. Section 6.03, Richard Smith.
He's back.
I know, aside for sore eyes, well, back and at it.
You had to make an eye joke.
Huh?
You had to make
Had to make an eye joke.
No, I didn't mean to. I meant because he was better.
Hopefully,
Yes.
hopefully this eye is not sore for too much longer. This section is concerning the roofs at Garfield and Lincoln, and I think Dr. Kraus sent out to you some specs on the roof we're proposing to do. Sorry, I've only got 4 copies of the hard copy.
But that's the same as electronic.
You can go,
one, right?
yes,
Okay.
you could go down, you can put some down there.
Okay.
And so just to be clear on the process, could you
Yes.
explain that? We're doing this piece and then,
Okay, yeah,
have put out what you're going to see tonight are the specs for the roofs at Garfield and Lincoln, and I think also Eugene Field is in there too.
That's correct.
A section of it.
Yes.
The agenda item says floors also, but we were unable to get all the numbers we needed to give you the full picture, so we'll have to table that till our next meeting.
And the information provided, what you wanted to know was, is this the way that we want to proceed with the bids?
That's correct.
Because this is not bids, this is to get bids.
This is the RFP. This is what
Correct.
we're going to put out to get bids.
Right.
That's correct. And the reason why we came up with this idea, I brought Garland is our roof consultant and has been for all of our roof projects throughout the last few years. But this is the only way that we can get like a 30-year warranty, just like a new roof. It's an overlay over the old existing. If we just do the repair type here and there, there's no warranty with that. There's no guarantee that, because one day at Lincoln, if it rains, it might leak on the north end. The next day it rains, it's going to leak on the south end, depending on which way the wind blows and where the rain comes from. So at the same time, Dr. Kraus asked me to go ahead and include the RFP for Eugene Field that was originally scheduled for this summer for the flat roof area. That way we can just get a bid to see if we want to proceed with that or not.
And we had originally planned on doing that this summer. It leaks fairly
Well,
significantly.
it leaks a lot, and we will end up with the same situation we had before if we're not careful. We do try to stay on top every time it rains. We patch, we get up there and try to find the spots, but it's a single membrane roof, and all it takes is a pinhole for when it pools up for it to leak through. We have to get up there to do different kinds of maintenance on different things, and so just walking on it sometimes causes a real problem. That roof would be replaced with your back section of that RFP, which is a modified Benjamin built-up roof, like what we put on the high school last summer. It's a very good roof. It's what's the warranty on that, Greg?
It's again a 30-year, no dollar limit.
It's a 30-year warranty as well. That's what I'm asking for tonight, is to send these specs out to reputable contractors that will do a good job for us.
Be bonded.
I had a question. During
Yes.
the litigation we went through with Garfield and Lincoln, I was under the understanding that Lincoln was possibly repairable, but Garfield was beyond repair, that it needed completely ripped off and a whole new roof put on.
Mhm.
What you're suggesting is not a repair, it's not a new roof, but it's an overlay. And
That's-
so will that, can you?
It is virtually a new roof. There'd be a subframing system put over the existing roof. The only thing you're not doing is removing that existing roof assembly. And I've already ran the live and dead load calculations through our engineers, and it's quite capable. So it's just a matter of whether you leave that on there weight-wise or not. And there's a special framing system that fits down over that existing system to put your new assembly.
So it's not fixing it, it's basically building a brand new roof. It's just building it over the existing roof rather than ripping it off,
Right,
which would be more
and
costly.
throwing it in a dump, which is a lot more expensive,
Okay.
plus you're putting more in the landfill.
Right.
So the
And-
big issue was whether your existing structure would support the weight, not only the weight of the roof, but live loads such as snow and rain and
Right.
foot traffic and all that.
But on each of those we get a 30-year warranty that if something goes wrong, it's,
Yeah, it's covered at no dollar limit. It's not a prorated warranty. It's a complete from day one to year 30, complete system warranty.
And both schools is the same way like that, Brandon.
okay.
And
Both
it
of them
is
being
a
overlay.
water-type warranty. Like your
Okay.
last new construction project, they said you had a 20-year warranty. Well, that was a 20-year paint finish warranty. You had nothing on leaks.
Yeah.
So, and these systems still have a 20-year on the paint finish, but a 30-year on the leaks and water and air tightness.
Okay, thank you.
Can't imagine. Now,
Can we add one clause in the final inspection? That we pay them after it has one substantial rain to test it?
You can definitely hold a final payment for that.
Is that something that we should consider, since we've had the issue in the past, to hold it after one? Let's just say, for example, we put the roof on and it's 90 degrees for 90 days, and we don't get a rain until 6 months after we get it done. Should we?
You could
hold a
hold,
little
you
bit
could
for
do,
that?
you could do a 5% holdback.
Yeah, or even a 10% hold for, it's very commonly done. So,
And-
yeah, you could absolutely do that.
Just a thought.
Well, it's not a bad thought with what you've been through.
Well, we've also done that on the high school. We've held back until, we've made the final payment, but we held back a retention.
We ought to do something to make sure it's.
Yeah.
I would like to see a 5 or a 10%
And
holdback.
there's some, should be some language in that spec about retainages.
Yeah, it's written in there.
But yeah, that's not a bad idea,
All right, now,
especially knowing what you've been through, because it was a mess.
is this on
You
for
looking for a
later to
motion to
vote
approve
on?
it?
Yeah, this is simply giving your permission to send out the RFP. That's all we're asking for
Yes.
tonight.
And
so-
we're hoping that this is going to be covered with the litigation, the settlement we've received.
Well, hopefully, and that's what we'll have to see when we get to number.
We'll see how the bids come in, and hopefully that is.
Madam President, I
is-
move that we go ahead and proceed with the releasing of the RFP as presented.
Second.
Moved by David, seconded by Bill. Any discussion? I want you to get it done for what we got on that
We're working
litigation.
now.
Excuse me.
No pressure.
Eugene Field is a separate deal from your litigation.
Yes.
In
Yeah.
there, but it is a separate bid item in the
Yeah.
document.
Don't you have buy two, get one free?
It should be, shouldn't it?
Uh-huh, yeah. And we want warranty against water, since roofs do
Right.
tend to get water on them.
Once in a while.
Not just paint.
Not just paint,
about the
okay.
paint.
All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0.
All right, thank you very much. I do have one other update on like, as Dr. Kraus said, on the epoxy floors. I did have another, the contractor came back today. His original proposal that he sent to me didn't cover all the areas that I felt like we needed to address at both schools. So we walked every inch of the school today, made sure that every crack was going to be taken care of, the discolorations at Lincoln as well. And he was going to try to get that back to me this afternoon. It didn't come. So hopefully tomorrow or so we'll have possibility of having pricing on just the repair work and then also a price on replacing the whole thing. So you'll be able to make a decision from that as well on both schools.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Richard.
Uh-huh.
Do you want, is he to stay up there for the Eugene Field
Yeah.
Art House?
Yep.
Heaving?
Do you want to talk about that, Richard? Do you want me
I
to-
can. With inspection of the art house, was reported to me that the floors were getting a little wavy, so I thought I'd better get down there and take a look in the basement. We have got a, yeah, thank you, here. We have got a big problem with the old rock foundation is actually heaving in, and as it's moving in, not only from the middle, but it's moving in from the bottom, heaving the concrete existing floor up, and where the main beam goes down the middle of the floor, it's causing that concrete and foundation to go down. That's what's dropping the main beam in the house. So I got a contractor that did our work for us at the high school last year to come out and give me some ideas and approximate price of what that's going to cost. And he's looking around $18,000 or so to repair that. And I just need to know if we want to, or we need to, I guess, visit about that and see where we want to go from there. And, but that'll be, I guess, something that Brian will get back with you on later.
Okay.
Right,
That was not an action item, so.
we just wanted to put it on the radar for this time, and what I would like Richard to do is to take someone in there that can tell us, obviously, we want to make sure it's structurally safe to have people in there, decide that obviously first, and then as we work through the long-range facilities plan, we would be able to decide if this is something that we want to address, or if that would be a part of what we're doing for long-term facilities. So it'll be an action item when we come back.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 6.0, beg your pardon?
What's
Right.
that?
How about the fencing while we're on the?
Eugene Field.
It's down
Oh,
below.
we can't, it's down lower, it's down lower.
Contracts.
Can we cover the fence while I'm up here?
Um,
Or is it a different time?
It's down below.
I'll get confused.
That's
Okay.
That's an action item, we need to
Okay.
correct
I'm
that.
too old, I gotta go in.
On 6.05, we had down as a discussion item, lease or purchase on the buses. We don't have apples to apples numbers on our RFPs from all of our vendors, so we're going to decided we would wait to bring that back until we have a valid comparison. It's pretty hard to tell. For instance, one of them bid out gas engine instead of diesel. Well, obviously, there's a significant cost difference. So we really didn't have accurate information to give you, so I'd like to table that item until next time.
Okay, and just to, for general knowledge, how many buses are we looking at?
I think
We were looking at two
route buses.
route buses, 71 passenger, and then two wheelchair, smaller buses.
Okay.
So,
Well, and we'll need to know, too, how that fits with our monies.
yeah, and that's one reason why we didn't present it tonight.
Right.
Terry did not, we just got them today. She's not having an opportunity to figure out what kind of a lease or purchase would be the best way to go. And I'll get with her this next week or this week and try to see what's the best way for us to recommend to go from there.
Couldn't we just have administrators pick up kids in their cars? I mean, that would save,
On the way to school?
that would save a bunch of money, I think.
And teachers. And board members.
I don't have a license anymore.
Okay. On to 6.06. So Teresa, you'll put that back on next time, right?
Yes,
Thank you. 6.06, May 27th board meeting.
Cancel.
It is on Memorial Day, which is the 27th, which is Monday, the 27th. As you can see by the agenda, there's quite a bit that we have to get through and that we need to get going on for the summer and things. The question is, should we meet then on the 28th? Should we meet on the 20th?
Well, the
One
question
of
is, if we finish this agenda, will we have anything to talk about on that day?
Well,
I
I was
think we
hoping
will.
we could squeeze it all in there, but maybe not. Part of the concern is, of course, like we had Friday, Sunday, then tonight, then tomorrow, then Thursday morning, then, it kind of
Yeah.
keeps just going up, and it's kind of tough to get.
I'll make it easy. If you want to have it without me, you can, because I'm gone that whole week for business, so.
I'll be gone as well.
That week.
On the 27th?
How about the 28th?
We talked about this before, and we thought the 20th or the 28th is
Yeah.
fine with me, but I
Either
think
one, Tuesday the 20th.
we'll need it. There's
28th.
business we have to do.
Okay.
Hey, what about next Monday, 20th?
I'm okay with it.
There will be things that we could do on the 20th. There will be a couple of things. We won't have numbers back on the RFPs on the roofs. That
That's
would
the,
take longer.
that's the problem, is it getting back some information that we're
We
needing.
probably would have initial numbers on buses. I assume, Deb, would we have solid numbers by then?
When did you want them, Brian?
Well, it depends on when we decide, or if we're having a second meeting this.
Monday.
Yeah.
It's tough to get it by then. We can't do it by then. Probably, it's better to do the 28th if we can. Because it gives it time to get stuff.
The roof numbers won't be back.
I mean, are
next
we in that
Sunday.
hurry for the roof? Shouldn't we do it right?
We're not gonna have roof numbers back
And are
until
the
the June
buses
meeting.
that big to do it already, that another couple of weeks won't hurt, because they're running right now?
I agree, we've been 6 years with that, and I think we should make sure that all our ducks are lined up and we're doing this thing right.
What else would we have that needs to be dealt with in 2 weeks?
Well, in 2 weeks, we would have 6.03 would not be back. We could do further discussion on the survey results. 6.04 we probably could have numbers back, couldn't we, Richard? Or an opinion on whether that the
Art house.
art house is inhabitable as it is.
I mean, what do you want me to do there?
I want somebody to tell us it's safe to have people in there, or it's not safe to have people in there.
It'd be cheaper.
We got 2 new board members coming on in now.
Then 6.05, we would have the lease or purchase numbers back on buses.
And we would have the epoxy, we would have the
Epoxy flooring. What we would not have would be the roof numbers.
Will we be significantly hurting progress over the summer if we wait to do those in the first meeting in June?
For
Any of those?
For the roofing, we're at the point right now where we're already going to be into school, even if we got it approved tonight.
Right.
So you're talking about a couple more weeks. The metal roof, standing seam roof, is a clean application. It'd be basically fencing off an area to make it safe, and you're going to hear a little bit of drilling or something, maybe at Garfield, but probably not at Lincoln, because it's going to be up on the barrel. So I'd say no. If you decide to do the roof at Eugene Field at this time as well, we've still got time to put that kind of a roof on before school starts, and it would probably need to be, because it is kind of it's a different animal. You know, you're talking about hot tar, rock, and
Okay. All right, well, we'll go with, what do y'all want to do?
Wait till June.
What'd you say?
Wait till June.
Wait till June?
Since I don't hear a compelling need to have that second meeting in May, if there was something here that we had to be able to act on to keep it in the time frame, I'd say then we should meet on the 28th. But I don't hear that,
Unless it's hiring of personnel.
unless it would be hiring personnel or something like that.
Don't want to lose out to another district.
We could always call a special meeting if
Oh,
we
yeah.
need to for something like that, correct?
Well, and what we do with all of our candidates is offer them a job based on board approval, pending board approval, so I don't think that wouldn't deter anyone from signing with us, I don't think.
Have we gotten our checks yet?
No. Mike Norris has been in touch with me. I'm going to go up and get them.
You are?
She's going
Yes.
through Mexico to get them.
Yeah, I'm going up to get them.
Bill, should
On
you
the way up
provide
or the way
security,
back?
make sure she doesn't go to the casino?
I won't go to the casino,
not
trust me.
gonna provide
I want roofs that don't leak worse than I want to go to the casino. I don't
So when are you
trust
gonna
those
pick them up
places.
for us?
Huh?
When are you-
We were gonna go Tuesday, I think he said Tuesday sometime, I don't know. He was getting back to me, so.
Well, I'd like to have the money before we spend it.
Yeah, I know. Gotta put it in someplace good. Huh?
I need to get it collateralized, you might let me know.
Okay,
I need to make sure we have collateral that's back for it.
okay. All right, well, I just wanna make sure it came because I'm all about this roof business. Water's our
So are
enemy.
we meeting or not?
Sounds like
Right.
we're not.
So we're not meeting the end of the month, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
All right.
If special meetings needed, a special meeting's needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to notify people that we're not meeting because we have a
Standing thing.
standing
Okay.
meeting.
All right, 6.0, I'm sorry, what?
June 10th will be the next meeting, yes.
Okay. Sorry, excuse me, 6.07.
Okay, 6.07, as you saw in the attachment that I left you, Jeff Curry has resigned his position on the ORC board. I attached the bylaws for you. The only thing from ORC, the only thing on page 2 that mentions filling up a vacated spot is highlighted there in yellow. It says USD 290 shall appoint 2 commissioners, and then a commissioner who replaces a vacated term may still serve an additional 2 terms. So there is no established protocol in the ORC bylaws about how that position is to be replaced. So just basically wanted to
Can we
find
solicit?
from you how you wish to do that.
We usually advertise, they send a letter, and then they come in and we interview them.
Yeah.
I think that's the way we've done it the last several times.
And that's how the city does their
Yeah.
I'd say let's just go with that policy then.
Yep.
Solicit letters of interest.
We do have one person who is interested, and that is,
Yeah, well, let them go through the
That's
process
good.
So we'll
and
have a
advertise
bunch.
it.
that's,
So will you put an ad in, Brian?
plan.
No, but I'll have Teresa do it.
Well, can you coordinate that for us?
I can.
Yeah. All right, 6.08, board reports.
I have some good news and some bad news.
Uh-oh.
Just go with the bad news first.
Bad news first.
Bad news first.
Well, some of you weren't on the board when this happened, but in 2004 and 5, and another time, we had assessments for our workman's comp.
Yes.
And we have been working diligently, and I do mean that, trying to come out from under that. We lost many people at that time. We're down to 83. I think we were in 180-something at the time. So we've lost about 100 school districts. And we have been working and working and working. As you know, our mod factors are high. They do it over a 3-year average, and we had a really horrific year, and then a couple of years that weren't very good also, but not as horrific. That horrific year is going off. That's one good news. So the so-so year is coming on, so that's good news. But one of the part of the bad news is that the Insurance Commission, state, thank you, State of Kansas Insurance Commission, we were doing great until they raised their rates. They basically raised their rates that we are going to have to pick up on 4%. That was before we did any work. That's 4% loss, okay? And so we looked last Saturday in April, we spent all day looking at numbers and numbers and numbers, and came up with, we basically, the rates will be the same, although that 4% will be a 4% raise, but we made it the same. Good news, we did it every which way, and I mean, I do mean we worked diligently on this, and we figured it every way that we could figure it, and Ottawa USD 290 will be getting an assessment return of $3,000.53.
Ooh.
How's that bad news?
That's good news.
That's the good news.
All right.
The bad news was all of the other stuff that the commission did and all that. We figured it at $1 million. We figured it at $250,000 to pay back. This is based on $500,000. I would say, and of course I won't have anything to do with it, so I can say anything I want to say, I guess. But I anticipate this happening again next year.
Good.
If things went like it did last year. We have, you know, maybe you don't know Liz Mapers Clark, but she spends this money like it's her own. And I mean, thank God she does. That's why we can do the assessment payback now. We could have done the $1 million, but it'd have been fairly close. Then if something bad happened, another assessment might have been in the future. So she was conservative, and so we did the $500,000 payback. And I would imagine if things go the way they did this last year, you might be looking at another $500,000 or something next year. I am now off the board, the Workman's Comp Board. That was my last meeting.
You did it.
And they feel that they'll look at who's in the pool, they'll look at who's, they try to do it large school districts, small, north, south, east, and west. They'll just go somewhere and choose whatever's lacking on the board at the time.
Marge, you served what, 9 years, 10 years on that? 9 years?
10 years.
10 years.
10 years.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, he's got big shoes to fill.
It's
that's for
very
sure.
enjoyable to do it. I'll be the last person that knew anything about insurance when I started, and probably the last person who cared, you know. But now I see people standing on chairs, I get a little nervous. And I believe, I do see that in USD 290 a few times. So anyway, that's my
Especially the
report.
ones with wheels on them, right?
Well, at one board meeting, there was a person who will remain nameless, came and stood on the table here to fix something up there. Not a good thing for a workman's comp person to look at. So, and ORC did not meet this time. They'll meet tomorrow night, actually, or Wednesday night, whatever.
Okay.
Soon.
Other reports.
The Neighborhood Revitalization Committee will be meeting tomorrow. We've got 3 applications plus a couple of other possible things to be looking at. So we'll give you a report on that next time.
All right. Brian.
You know, in the interest of time, I think I put everything in my weekly update that I had to share with you, so I'll pass.
What time are we supposed to be at the middle school tomorrow night?
Middle school starts at 7. What time do you want us there, Carmen?
6:45.
Oh, you divide everybody up, so I think 6:30. I usually have it done for you guys, and I'll just kind of give it to you. If you have someone in mind that you'd like to be a part of it, you can either email it or come a little early, and I can make sure you get your.
So what time did you say?
6:30?
6:30.
Plus, we can't
Your
park
office
if we're
there.
not careful.
Yeah, you want to park.
You better come at 4 or 5 in the afternoon.
Or park over here and walk, probably just as easy.
That's what I do.
Or at the high school, I've done that before.
Yep, I'll just walk.
Okay.
You have that option.
Moving on to section 7. 7.01 is community and CIS after-school proposal. Dr. Kraus.
This is important to me. so fix
Okay,
mine.
let me find it real quickly here. Last time when we met, CIS had come up with 3 proposals that they wanted you to consider, and we kind of settled on proposal 2 and did some modification to that. Their original proposal would have cost the district approximately $30,000. We had reworked it and gotten it down to, Terry and I had worked with them and gotten it down to about $13,000. And they did some more outside-the-box thinking on it. They got ORC to sign on as a partner in this. And what would amount to, it will still be the same amount of time. They would still meet till 5:30 like they do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And it would go till 5:30, like I said. And the additional 2 hours, right in the middle there on line 10, it says USD staff hired. There would be 3 building liaisons, which we already hire through communities and schools. They would have additional hours, mostly to work with the ORC person to plan the activities for that 2 hours on Wednesday. We'd have 1 liaison who would go to the ORC to meet with their director, come back, share that information with our other 2 liaisons. The big cost in it, on line 14, you see 144 student supplies at $5 a month for 10 months. They would plan to do some sort of craft activity that would require consumables. Becky is confident that that can be done for far less than $5 a month, but that's a maximum that we would be looking at. So it's very possible that that $7,200 will be less. But worst case scenario, we'd be looking at $10,947 of USD cost, and then the $4,455 would be absorbed by the ORC. So I feel like it is a good compromise. It will still allow for the students to have some sort of supervised activity to the same time that they do on other days. And so my recommendation would be that we approve that particular plan.
And this is
Any
for
questions?
discussion for the early release days.
This is for Wednesdays, yes.
Correct.
You said the program was Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, but it's actually Monday through Thursday, Friday.
Right.
It's not.
Friday's not. This would make the Wednesday time the same as the other 3
Right,
days.
so the parents can still pick up at 5:30 every day, just like before.
Just like before, yes.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the early release day budget of what's been presented.
Second.
Second, third.
Yeah. Moved and thirded by everyone here. All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0.
David had strong feelings about that. He had to
Yeah.
walk out.
David needed a boost. Okay, resolution number 103. Authorizing us.
To make this motion, is that right?
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
Somebody who likes to read.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 103 for the advance refunding of approximately $9,445,000 of Series 2004 bonds.
Okay.
To read the resolution.
All in,
You have
second?
to read it?
Second?
We have to read it?
I don't think.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because I've
Had it
offered to read
before.
those before, and everybody wants to say no.
Well, I'm glad you don't. I just want to make sure.
We'll scroll through it slow, Andy, let everybody here see what we're talking about.
Saving
It
money.
was a 2004 series
yeah.
bond to approximately 9.
It'd be an
9.5.
interest savings to the district of almost $200,000 to do this over the series, over the life of the bonds.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Brandon. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. 7.03, Andy.
Okay, this is a proposal to move forward, like we discussed at the last meeting, and purchase some Windows 8 tablets for our high school teachers with the intent to hopefully be ready to move to a one-to-one for our students for the 14-15 school year. But this would be 90 tablets at $540 each, which would be enough for our high school staff, one lab at our high school where the teachers could check out and kind of share to start using that and getting used to those tablets, and then about between 5 and 8 left over to be used for the technology department and spares so that we can provide some training. And we'd like to get these ordered and in the hands of our teachers as soon as we can this summer, so they have the summer and the school year to kind of prepare for that.
Okay. We've had this information presented to us previously. Do I have a motion?
I would move that we approve the one-to-one implementation plan.
Second?
Second.
So moved by Bill, seconded by Brian Kane. Any discussion, questions? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. You are also presented information for the handbooks, and the handbooks have been outlined in terms of what has changed. There are several of them, and then there was also, like, for some of us that enjoy the Cliff Note version, a Cliff Note version. I think OVP, VLP, and OLC, they have either had or had limited handbooks, and it's an expansion on some of that. Is there any questions or anything anybody wants to cover in terms for points of clarification?
I would like to have you look, Andy, if you could open the high school student handbook, second from the bottom. You guys approved this last time. I asked Ryan to resubmit it. We had an issue come up this year concerning graduation and failing of classes and how those could be made up and how that affected. I think it's about page 7. You'll see a little blurb of purple.
Page what?
Blurb
It's
of
about
purple.
page 7 or so.
Okay, it's nice purple.
Would come up around the graduation.
Little more.
I'm on page 12 of 27.
Okay, sorry.
The lower right-hand count.
There it is. There we go. A little higher. Basically, this is just writing out what has been done historically at the high school, and it was to put it into words. Ryan, would you like to go ahead and talk them through that?
We treat our students, our senior students, a little bit differently when it comes to credit recovery because of the need to finish them. We typically don't offer a credit recovery program until students it has been posted that they've failed a class. That way we continue to have them progress in a class and so on and so forth. With seniors, it's a little bit different. We know that, hey, look, when you're going to fail, they're going to be done anyways. If they know with 2 weeks left to go in the year, I'm not going to make it, we have some issues there. So what we've done in the past is we've allowed them to start a credit recovery program early so that they can finish up and they have their summers to move on and go on and do what they're going to do. The conversation that we have with them when we choose to do that, when they choose to do that, is that, look, you failed your class and therefore you don't meet our graduation requirements, therefore you don't participate in commencement ceremonies. We can start you in credit recovery early, understand that you're not going to participate in commencement ceremonies. So everybody that's done this has been fine with this. We just felt like it was a time that we needed to get it in writing before we wind up with a bigger issue so that we have a policy backing our statement that they would not participate in commencement ceremonies because they haven't done the expected work of our graduation requirements.
Okay. Also, in the OMS handbook, I noticed it says, the coach's handbook specifically, heat and sportsmanship courses. Where is that? When is that? And is that extra money for the district? Or is that being done now? Who teaches that?
That is done online through the Kansas State High School Credit Association. So those are courses that our coaches took just through an online, basically video that they watched and some videos.
Okay. Do we have all of our coaches do that?
We
Or
did
is
this
it?
year.
Okay.
Is that the coaching equivalent of bloodborne pathogens?
Oh, I hope it's at least as exciting.
It's definitely as exciting.
All right. Other questions from anyone?
Nope, Dougie.
I make a motion we approve all the handbooks as proposed.
Second.
All right. Moved by Brandon, seconded by Brian, or David, I'm sorry.
No,
Apologize. To approve the handbooks, any further discussion?
Just one quick note. I noticed in the high school handbook, it still lists Chartwell's food service. We might want to change that.
Yes,
I'll change it.
All right.
Just change it to food service. So you don't have to worry about
You
it.
might want to put in there, you might want to list their benefits too.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 7-0. We're moving on. We've had the Eugene Field playground fence bid
Bill,
presented
would you mind
before.
apologizing? She was very sincere, and
I know
that was
she was.
unprofessional.
I know it. She was, and I shouldn't
You should
have made
take, I mean, we shouldn't comment on that.
That's a good.
And we shouldn't be laughing, because she was very serious.
She was very serious, and what I wanted, I don't think they've pursued that with OPA that seriously. I really don't. I think they're going to find that they have pretty good benefits, but maybe I'm wrong from what I saw. But thank you, Dennis. You're right. I should not have made that comment.
Okay. Now, with respect to the Eugene Field fence, we had a bid that we received and that we approved. The reason this is back on the agenda tonight is because we went to the guys that were going to do our fence for the amount they planned and we approved, and they said, no, wait a minute, we want to do over, we're not going to do it, basically. I mean, that's the Cliff Note version of, I'm sure, several meetings, correct? So now we've asked the other fence people to give us other bids, and so that's what we have tonight. So it's not I mean, you know, it's just, because the monies had been allocated and we approved them, I felt it was important to bring it back to the board to rediscuss it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yes, the company that we originally had approved, June and July gets into his haying season, and he does not install fences during June and July. So we went to
Did he not know that we were going to do this in the summer?
When we bid it last fall, it was expected to be done possibly through Christmas break. And it was tabled back then.
Recently, have we? We just okayed that.
So we haven't, I don't think it's been that long.
He bid it back. He's not
We
going to do it.
we bid it in October
We tabled
of
it
this
back.
year, and we tabled it because we were looking at other possibilities. And so 5 or 6 months later, or maybe 7 months, it was a case of where he just didn't want to do the job. We issued the PO to him. When he got the PO, he called me and he said, "Hey, we got a problem. I can't perform. I can't do it. I'd rather you take somebody else." So we went to the second bidder, which was Apex Fence, and
Amounts. You have the amounts?
and that amount is
Difference amount.
$85.64. It is a little bit, it's a little bit more money than what he had done, but we also, the city is requiring us to put panic bars on the chain link fence gates. So that includes some of the
What's
rest.
the cost differential between Morgan Fence and Apex Fence?
The original bid was around 6,100.
6,100 something
Some
was the
change.
original. But the 6,100 didn't
65.
include the panic bar, so it would have been
Right.
somewhat less. Their original bids, I think, were about 1,700 different.
Yeah, it was 65 something and 81 was the originals. And then with the
Panic bars.
85, it makes the panic bar. Or the
Panic bar, is that
egress
on a door, like a,
on the
Exit,
on the
fire
gate.
exit, a panic bar to push it so you can go
those
out.
on any of our other fences, or?
No, we had to do that. We originally, when we looked at that, we were not going to run the fencing around the south end on the west side that included the doors, so we didn't need to do that. But we decided that we wanted to include that southwest door that goes out to the park, or the playground, into that fence area. So the only way the city would pass that is if we had a panic egress that once they come out that door, they could hit the panic bar and go on and keep on going.
Can somebody from the outside just reach over, pull the
No,
panic? Oh.
no, because there's how it's built, Bill, is there's a metal plate, then the panic bar goes on and it becomes a solid part of the gate, and then there's a receiver that goes onto the pole. So unless you've got 4-foot arms, you're probably not going to get, or if you climb over the 6-foot fence.
Okay.
But there is a key on the outside where you can unlock it from the outside, so key carriers would have that key.
Okay.
So I'm recommending that we approve the bid by Apex Fence to get the playground area fenced.
I would so move.
Second.
Moved by Bill, seconded by Brian. Right? I got it right, okay. Any other discussion or questions?
I would like to know the difference between the Apex bid for this and for the total fencing.
Okay, the Apex fence bid was also the cheapest one of the entire campus of the two. But that included some of this fencing that this is. So actually, if we decided to do the entire campus at a later date, it would be less money than what that bid came in because we're already doing some of this.
So what would it be if we decided to do that now, since we've had a mess up with the other contractor?
It would probably be around, because they want panic bars on all the gates in the front, sides, and back. You're probably looking around $20,000.
You have that number written down?
I've got it in my.
I'm trying to
Yes.
call it up electronically, Marge, and
Okay.
it's not coming up.
I didn't present that as
It was
a
18
action
something
item.
before.
It was
And
what?
we still had the,
1,000.
yeah, it was 18 some. We still had the question on access for
safety.
fire, yeah.
If we did the whole campus.
That
was something
fence,
he's-
that price only included coming from the east fence on Tremont that's existing, all the way down to 7th, up 7th Street, and then back to the school that would take in the modulars, and then back to the corner, the northwest corner of the school. That did not fence in the west of the building, other than the southwest doors.
Right.
Is it not coming back up for everybody? It was didn't we have it last meeting?
It's
Uh,
No,
two
I'm trying
meetings
to
ago.
find it.
It's been several
Two
It
meetings
won't
ago.
open up, Susan, that's the
Yeah,
problem.
I know, I couldn't get mine either. I thought it was just my computer.
Want me to try to find it?
Yeah, I found fencing, it's under attachments, but the attachment will not pull up for me. It just sits there in a circle, so it won't.
It was 18 something.
So it's 10,000 more.
I
Roughly.
just can't get it
Correct.
open up. It's,
I probably won't get to do it then.
We voted on the motion yet.
I did meet with the city this last week concerning that fence that would encompass the whole campus, and there was no restrictions that kept us from doing that. They did kind of, they didn't like the idea of us doing it for aesthetics purposes, for whatever, but there was nothing they could do to stop us from doing it if we wanted to do that.
Teresa, can you pull that one up? Because I can't get this to come up on my laptop.
The 22nd.
It seems to be just locking out, that I can't, I've searched for it, I found the PDF, but it won't upload.
22nd.
I just searched for fencing and it came.
Huh?
Question.
Right. We have a question on the floor.
I mean, we've got-
So it's currently been moved by Bill, right, and seconded by Brian to approve this bid that was presented. And we're trying to pull up the other stuff.
See, here's what I'm finding. I just can't. I've got it to the attachment, that's what I need to pull up. And you click on it and it just, well, it's not coming up from the libraries for fencing, Apex fencing, under search. It's just not coming up on mine.
Okay.
I can find the PDF, but I can't get it to come up.
All right. Marge, are you getting yours up?
No.
You get yours to pull
On
up?
April 22nd, there's no attachment to there.
We have to go back to like that February meeting or whenever it was, when we first had it.
Okay, I think I've got it this time.
You got it?
This, I've got the yellow map and, oh, but it's just the drawing. The drawing comes up. It doesn't have the pricing.
Don't you have it in hard copy, Richard?
This is it, it's just today's.
Oh, that was it.
That's it.
There you
That's
go.
it.
Woohoo.
That's it. Yours came up.
Roll down.
That's right there. No,
There.
you just passed it.
18650.
18,650
Yeah.
plus panic bars, panic gates would be what that would be.
Mhm.
18,929.
Exactly, almost exactly.
Yeah, I do have it in hard copy
Almost
here.
exactly 10,000 more. Okay? All right, so there's a motion on the floor and a second. That's a discussion. Any further discussion? Call the question. All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 6. All opposed? 1. Okay, moving on to section 7.06.
Typically, the administrator's contracts would have been on the agenda quite some time ago. Obviously, we've had some unusual happenings in terms of superintendent personnel. I'm just asking that the board approve administrative contracts for the people listed there. It's basically all of our building principals, Brenda Cummings at OLC and Becky Nevergold for CIS for the 2013-2014 school year.
Madam President, I move to extend the administrator's contract as listed through the 2013-2014 school year.
Second.
Second that.
Okay. Moved by Dennis, seconded by David. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Section 8, executive session for negotiations.
Brian,
Gentlemen?
do we even need it?
Yes,
Okay.
probably 10 minutes would be all we need.
Okay.
Could we add 5 minutes?
Oh, yeah, build in a bathroom break.
Yeah,
Come back at 9.
15, yeah, come back at 9.
Okay.
Madam President, I move the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters relating to employer-employee negotiations, whether or not in consultation with the representative or representatives of the body, and the board return to open meeting at 9 o'clock in this room. The executive session is required to protect the district's right to the confidentiality of its negotiating position and the public interest. This will include Dr. Kraus.
Second.
All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. All right, we're back in.
Huh?
Madam Chairman, I move we return to open session.
Second.
All right, moved by Bill, seconded by Brandon, the return to open session. All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. We're smoking right along. Section 9, personnel.
How long do we want? Do we need to have any with Dr. Kraus in the room?
Do you want anything?
Why don't you give me a 5-minute with me in there and then come back and do your other one, or vice versa? Got some,
Yeah, let's do 5 minutes with Brian first.
Yeah.
Madam Chairman, I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters for non-elected personnel, and that the board return to open meeting at 9:07 in this room. The executive session is required to protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual, and Dr. Kraus be invited in.
In 30 seconds.
Second?
Second.
All right, second by Brandon. 7-0. 7-0. Gentlemen,
Madam President, I move the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters for non-elected personnel, and that the board return to open meeting at, what do you think, 9:30? Want to go longer?
yeah,
Let's go.
9:40.
9:40. In this room, the executive session is required to protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual, and this will be board only.
Second.
All right, moved by David, seconded by Brian. 7-0.
That we go board in exec session for purposes of discussing non-elected personnel, and that the board attend the open meeting at 10 o'clock in this room, the exec session, protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual.
Second.
Second.
Moved by Dennis, seconded by Brian to come back into open session. All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0.
I make a motion we go back into executive session for 5 minutes for the purpose of discussing personnel. Ask that we invite Dr. Kraus in with us this time.
Second.
All right, all in favor? 7-0.
Madam President, I move we come back into open session.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Bill, seconded by Brandon to come back into open session. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right.
We still have a personnel staff list to
Do
do.
the staff list
Let's
first.
do the staff list first.
Okay.
Madam President, I move that we accept the staff list as presented.
Second.
Second.
Moved by David, seconded by Bill. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Madam President, I move that we hire Jeannie Stroh, or Dr. Jeannie Stroh, as the new superintendent of USD 290.
Second.
Moved by Brian, seconded by Bill, to hire Dr. Stroh. All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Announcements?
Three things. We've got the OMS promotion tomorrow at 7. Carmen would like you there by 6:30. The end of the year breakfast is on Thursday at 7 a.m. in the Cyclone Room at the high school. And the city county USD luncheons Wednesday at noon at the county is hosting that. Anyone going to be at that?
I will be there. Where's it at?
The county.
Yeah, I'll be there.
I will not be. I have a doctor's appointment in the city.
I'm
Which
planning
one?
on it.
Wednesday, Thursday?
Wednesday.
Don't know yet.
All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by David, seconded by Bill. 7-0.
We got to hit 10.